Let's talk about the United States. It's July of 2025 and the country is in a state of crisis again. Texas floods have displaced thousands. California's wildfires are raging earlier and faster. The richest country on earth is falling apart, one storm and one spark at a time. The question is, why?
I saw that the waters were getting higher than the marker for last year. Got my dog and we just went up the hill.
I've never seen anything like it. I've seen a lot of bad ones. I've gone to a lot of hurricanes, a lot of tornadoes. I've never seen anything like this.
Were the climate disasters preventable in the US? Is American infrastructure crumbling? And when will US politicians realize climate change is not a hoax? I'm Ananya Dutta and you're watching Grey Zone. The United States is witnessing wildfires and flooding simultaneously. The year started with wildfires in California, and now flash floods are wreaking havoc. New Mexico, North Carolina, New Jersey, New York. Less than 2 weeks after the death and devastation in Texas, flooding has hit multiple other states, and the situation seems to be getting even more extreme.
Yeah, so I was on the second level, and when I saw that the waters were getting higher than the marker for last year, got my dog and we just went up the hill. The garage here got lifted up, and that's what smashed into the lower part of my cabin. I just took out the supporting wall.
I mean, it's not the first time that it floods. I've been working here for 11 years. So whenever there's like massive rain, we know that this station is not going to be working. I hope that we can fix it because it was quite an inconvenience for me last night to get home.
As the New York resident described it, it's not the first time that these parts are being inundated. So why doesn't the American infrastructure hold up? After deadly flooding in central Texas in 1987, some thought they had proven they could handle Mother Nature's beast punch. Then came this month's horrific flash floods, when unfathomable amounts of rain fell in only hours and more than 100 people lost their lives. Let's bring in some data. The National Centers for Environmental Information is part of the US government. It concludes that the US sustained 403 weather and climate disasters from 1980 to 2024, that's last year, where overall damages and costs reached or exceeded $1 billion. The total cost of these exceeds $2.915 trillion. If we talk about just last year, there were 27 such events that led to 568 deaths and with losses exceeding $1 billion each affecting the US. There is no one reason behind this havoc, but a major reason is climate change, something US President Donald Trump infamously called a hoax. Climate change is making extreme weather events more frequent and intense, and there is enough data to support this. But people and governments are generally living in the past and haven't embraced that extreme weather is now the norm. The US is a country built on 20th century infrastructure, now collapsing under the weight of a 21st century climate. When the US president visited flood-stricken Texas recently, he followed the usual script. Surveyed the damage, met with the victims, and announced aid packages for those displaced.
We're also taking historic action to ensure that such a nightmare never happens again. We're going to look and see how can a thing like this, they could say it's a 100-year, somebody said it's a 500-year event. It doesn't, we're not going to let a thing like this happen again where it can wreak this kind of devastation.
Climate experts aren't able to trust Trump's words that this kind of disaster will never happen again, because science and Trump himself stand in contradiction.
I terminated the ridiculous and incredibly wasteful Green New Scam. Wasn't the environment supposed to eat us up like in 12 years? But that was like 13 years ago. What happened? We're still here. We're still here.
This was Trump 6 days after his inauguration. He terminated a major law that addressed the harms of climate change. There were tax credits for individuals and businesses for investing in clean energy projects and also worked towards sustainable living. As a result, instead of infrastructure having to deal with 2 inches of rain over a longer period of time, it could now face 2 inches in 1 hour. There are flooding subway systems in New York, drainage systems are overwhelmed in Texas, and firefighters are overworked in California. Trump isn't the only one to call climate change a hoax. There are other, louder voices in the Congress. But they are also the first to call Washington when disaster strikes their districts.
So one thing I think most, governors, most state officials, as well as the federal government, could agree upon, and that is we needed improvements in FEMA. And it needed to be what I call right-sized so that it would be more nimble, quicker in the response.
The United States is violating the first and the most important principle of emergency management, to be prepared. The country's defense budget for this year is $886 billion. Climate is less than 5% of it. So you do the math. It's not a lack of money, it's a choice, a conscious choice. America can or will spend on wars, technology, even UFOs, but not climate change. This is the grey zone, where climate isn't just science, it's inequality. The poor get affected the most, and the big companies drill their way to calamities. I'm Ananya Dutta. Thanks for watching.
$25 करोड़ गरीब गरीबी को परास्त करके बाहर निकले।
For the good of our nation, let's work together and let's truly make America great again.
The fastest news breaks.
Requested PM saying that look, you will have to speak to Putin and to Zelensky.
The biggest news makers.
The relationship with India is probably the most important bilateral relationship the US will have for the rest of this century.
The capital delivered quite an election result today.
Expert analysis.
The million-dollar question today is how to stop this dance of death.
Ground reports.
I'm standing at the crossroad of the Kumbh Mela. Behind me are more than 100 entry ghats.
Long-form interviews.
Exclusionary politics is reflected in Manipur case as well. You don't bother because this is a small state.
Deep dive into burning issues.
It's often said DRC could be the richest country in the whole world. It's because of what sits underneath.
Why exactly did the US topple the Sheikh Hasina government?
HT videos. We don't just break news, we break it down.